I first read the name Trayvon Martin on Facebook, signed the online petition, went to the Million Hoodie March, and my question is, if it weren't for the groundswell movement that really started online, would the justice system have continued to ignore Trayvon Martin and never called for the grand jury and a federal investigation?
Legal analyst Fagel says things could possibly get even worse for Brooks.
Because of what Brooks gave to E! News, he very well could be facing a forgery charge. This is obviously depending on whether the DA's office would want to file a case.
Was drunk, then he very well could have been charged with involuntary manslaughter, because as long as someone is killed while you're committing a felony or a misdemeanor, a DUI in this case, then he could have been charged with involuntary manslaughter. But of course, it's Ted Kennedy, and he wasn't.
Could the introduction of this new knife lead to O.J. being retried for the murders?
There's such thing called double jeopardy, which means that you cannot be tried twice for the same crime. So O.J. Simpson could never be tried for murder again.
The 2.5-hour interview that police conducted with Conrad Murray just 48 hours after Michael Jackson's death really highlighted all of the inconsistencies in his story. There's been assassinations, there's been untimely deaths. This family has been the epitome of scandal.
You represented O.J. Simpson.
I did.
I am going to ask you, do you believe that O.J. Simpson is innocent, or do you believe that he was guilty?
That's interesting, Mari, that you asked that question.
Special guest today on Justice is Served. This is Brian Panish. He was the attorney who represented the Jackson family in the most recent trial against AEG. Brian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mari. It's a pleasure to be here.
A special guest in studio with us today, Lisa Bloom, legal analyst and author of the new book, Suspicion Nation. The book is all about the inside story of the trial of George Zimmerman. So, Lisa, I am so happy to have you on today because we have been discussing this trial really from the beginning on this show. If these women come forward and say that I had sex with Charlie Sheen and he didn't tell me he was HIV positive before I had sex with him, then there could be criminal charges filed against Charlie Sheen.
During the course of this investigation, it was discovered that Nona's bank account was emptied the same day she went missing.
And those spare keys went missing because Jerome is staging this to look like someone stole the keys and broke into the house.
YourLegalLady.com, Mari Fagel.
It was a bad move on the defense's part. I thought it wasn't necessary for them to do that. The burden of proof is on the prosecution. They had to prove not only that it was a homicide, but that Drew did it. Assemblyman Dendecker wants to increase the penalties for criminal attacks against elected officials and their personal property, making such attacks a Class E felony. On June 30th, American Auto Body and Recovery was suspended from the city's towing program, pending a hearing. Attorneys for Apple Story, Fun Zone, and the other defendants will be back in court Friday for a hearing where the judge will determine whether to extend the temporary restraining order.